Hello folks, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. So welcome to another One Piece review. This time we're covering Manga chapter 1149. And oh my goodness, I'm kind of lost for words right now because of the ending of this chapter. I did not expect that cliffhanger. I'm pretty sure you didn't either. But I have my own two takes about this. I don't think it's as cut and dry as a lot of people are thinking it is, but we'll get to that. We'll start off with the colour spread because we didn't get a cover page, we got a colour spread, and I liked it. So it's a Bodokori maid cafe theme of this colour spread. We've got Luffy, Nami, Zoro, Usopp, Sanji, Robin and Chopper representing the Straw Hats alongside Bonnie Lilth. She has a... Now obviously Nami and Robin look cute in their maid outfits. Bonnie has like a tray with RIP on it, so I don't know if that's a reference to somebody. If it's referencing Kuma, I don't know, because you see the RIP, but her arm is blocking whatever else is on that tray, so I'm sure One Piece theorists are going to break out Morse code for this, but I couldn't see what that says, so if you did, let me know in the comments what you thought that was a reference to. Also, speaking of Bonnie, shout out to the Kuma backstory. It's just begun in the anime. I'm sure people have got their box of tissues on standby. You're going to need more than one box, I'm telling you right now. So we start off with the chapter with the Straw Hats being shot because number one, Scopper comes in and actually does damage to Saint Summers, which kind of like Chopper takes notice of because it could become crucial as to deal with the Holy Knights, because the key word is they're immortal, but apparently, and we see it in this chapter, like Saint Summers has not regenerated his arm. You see it like in certain panels, like his arm has not grown back. So whatever damage Scopper's doing, whatever the case may be, whether it's advanced conqueror's haki or not, Scopper's got some type of ability that lets him deal damage. Unfortunately, right now, things don't seem to be going well for Scopper, but that's going to change very soon. Scopper comes in immediately at the start of the chapter to do damage, and I love how Scopper says, "Oh, I'm kind of rusty here." It's kind of like how Garp entered when he used Galaxy Impact. I was like, "Oh, I'm not up to snuff. I'm kind of still rusty on that." So these old timers like show it off. Immediately, Scopper doesn't give him an inch because he's charging right in. Unfortunately, Saint Summers buys himself a little bit of breathing room because he uses thorns as a barrier, so that was pretty cool. Now he describes him as Mountain Eater. Why are you in Elbaf? So he doesn't actually say his name, but it doesn't matter because Robin overheard Saint Summers call him Scopper. Now I love how Nami's bringing up, him, Zoro and Luffy kind of battled him. No, Luffy battled him, and then Zoro tried to step in, and that's when he dipped. But I love how Nami's like, he overwhelmed them. No, Luffy, yes, Zoro, and he just joined the fight by the end. So, and then mentions he's the father of Colin, but then Robin is the one that points out, I'm pretty sure I heard him say Scopper, Gabon. And then Jinbei follows suit. Is like, he's the equivalent to Rayleigh. He's like the equal to Rayleigh. Now, I don't know if he means that in strength or in terms of stature, but either way, he's like the left hand of the Pirate King. And even Gunko knows who he was without actually mentioning his name. So, now I love how even while blinded by the way, Robin's still trapped in the thorns of Saint Summers, even in this predicament. But she's still thinking of ways to try and assist Scopper against Saint Summers. I think it's kind of like similar to like Gunko. So we'll have to wait and see. Either way, the fight continues because Saint Summers uses Thorn Rush, Hell of Crimson Lotus. It doesn't work because Scopper comes in with Futon Roku, which again we don't. It's kind of hard to say if it's a sparks coming from his axe because you see a trace of blood. So it could be both. Like I didn't notice that, but it may be blood coming from the Holy Knight, but also it could be sparks as well. So that may be our only hint if Advanced Conqueror's Haki is the cause here. He slices him in two, and like I said before, he hasn't regenerated his arm either, so he can't really do much of anything. Following this attack, Scopper's like, "Wait up, Colin." He's going right for Colin's location. Unfortunately, Gunko's on the scene as well. Like I said before, Chopper takes notice of how Scopper was able to deal damage, even the fact that he was immortal. This could become crucial information. That was his reasoning for trying to take off. So he's the only one that's free right now. So we cut to the school and we find out the school's already set on fire by Angie, but Saint killing him is like, you know what? As far as the library's concerned, I'll take care of it. He takes aim at our library, and it looks like it's caught on fire, but it's not all on fire, which is it's the front of the library. Obviously, Rob is in plain view of this, and you notice a puddle of soul as well. So, also even Jarrell is tearing up because this is sacrilege against Elbath right now. So there's no way this can come out good for any of them. But like I said before, it's more or less the principle of the library set on fire, along with the books of O'Hara. Not because I'm pretty sure Rob has already read the books, like I've said a million times already. But Rania is like tearing up as well, and Gunko's like, you know what, your job is done. And then after this, Scopper comes in to try and charge for Gunko. Like I said before, Gunko immediately recognized the Pirate King's crew, so Gunko immediately knew who this was. And Gunko continues, you do know resisting means the hostages will die, including Colin, because the other children try to get his attention. It's like, oh, hey, look, Colin, your son's here. And you see Scopper's like, don't say anything, because he knows the situation. Colin enthusiastically just like yells out dad. He's like yelling out for dad. He's like, oh, I'm so happy about this. My dad is stronger than anyone else. He should not have said that. But and you see the panic in Scopper's face the moment he said that. So I'm just saying, I knew this was going to boil down to a hostage situation, because immediately Gunko goes right for Colin, and it goes right for his neck, because he's got an arrow pinned right to the neck of Colin. It's unfortunate because Scopper's like, I have one attack, I have one last chance to like try and take her down. He has to be done in an instant, but unfortunately Scopper never gets that chance because of the situation. Now this situation kind of triggers some flashback panels involving Ripley, Scopper, and obviously Colin being born. So that was kind of cool. Now I have a critique about this chapter, because Ripley immediately, we cut to her following these panels, and it's like, Colin, please be safe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the previous chapter, didn't Oda have Ripley look like Ripley was going to go off and try and do something? Why is Ripley still there? Is this a case of Oda again having second thoughts about this? Because because she would really come in handy right now. You see Colin's neck being pierced by the sword made by Gunko, because you see the trickle of blood, and immediately this triggers like Scopper's like, it looks like you see the sparks, and this is where Hans Cocker's Hanky comes kicking in. So there's no denying this. So he's about to attack before he does anything, because he's not fast enough, because he has some type of future sight. He has future sight because he's like looking at Colin being stabbed right through the neck, because like Colin's like, I can take it, and then Scopper's like, no, I can't, I give up. So it doesn't matter how fast he is, like nothing's going to change what happens. So he gives up, but only this time it's much more serious than it was against Zoro and Luffy. And this literally leads to Gunko getting the upper hand, getting the one up on Scopper, because you knew this was not going to be enough to stop Gunko's rampage, because Gunko immediately attacks with piercing Scopper with both her arrows. Now he gets sent flying down below off the tree. Down below, I'll get to that in a second. Now this does two things. Number one, obviously this is looking bad for Scopper, but the second time, this is Colin crying out daddy, and this awakens like PTSD for Gunko, because immediately following that, Gunko thinking about Brooke, because she's literally saying, Brooke, is that you? And immediately we get Gunko's own flashback being triggered by a couple of panels, and honestly, to me, that's the most shocking part of this entire chapter, bar none the most shocking moment of this entire arc. We get the PTSD triggered for Gunko and a flashback involving Gunko and Brooke, and it's quickly established that Gunko is the child of Brooke because she's screaming out father in the past. And considering we see her hair longer than what it is right now, and the form we see it by the end of in this panel at the end of this chapter. So we go from Gunko heading to Brooke's location. It seems like once Colin is like crying out for daddy, that causes PTSD. Meanwhile, while this is going on, I love how you got the Holy Knights. You got Gunko heading for Brooke's location. You got Saint Summers on the ground, pinned down, shish kebab. Looks like by his own thorns, or it could be his, we don't know. but he's like immobile, unable to move. So I don't know if he's going to be down for the count. And you also got Saint Killingham. They're all being lent a message by Emu, which was kind of like surprising. So Emu's got like a message for all of them, because it's like, what's with all this commotion? The Holy Land is currently in flames right now. That seems to require additional military force. In other words, we need backup. I'll get to that in a second. See the change in the right eye, not a left eye, but both our eyes change regardless, because this immediately triggers a transformation. And even the kids look like, what's with this person? Her face got all scary. Gunko looking more menacing than she's ever done before, but this PTSD just triggered the Emu within Gunko. So even more questions are raised after this chapter. But the dialogue, I gotta admit, was like pretty epic. Like, Emu will show thy the dominion of God. Dominion meaning a place, by the way. So I don't know what this means or what's going to happen with involving Gunko, but that's how the chapter ends. And Oda, oh my god, like I said before, Oda with this flashback and this reveal and this cliffhanger. Like, so a couple of things to note following this chapter. Number one, like I said earlier, Scopper was like kind of like pierced and sent flying down below. Pretty sure it's not going to be a problem, because like I said, involving Rania, she was willing to like fall knowing she's going to be okay. Scopper is falling down below, and like I said multiple times, who's down below right now in the underworld? Remember what Luffy said, we don't want to see you again. So we know that's happening. So I'm pretty sure Scopper's going to be reappearing. I don't know if we're going to get a training montage involving Luffy, Zoro. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm pretty sure Scopper's going to be fine. That's number one. Number two, the dialogue we get from apparently Emu about the Holy Land is currently in a sea of flames, is engulfed in flames right now. Ironic, considering they're trying to set the library and the school on fire on Elbaf. Are we talking about the Holy Land currently under attack? Because remember, when that fraud Shamrock retreated, I believe it was St. Killingham that said, the Holy Land, Marijoa, needs your assistance. They could use your help right now. So he dipped, because he used the fact that he was a lookalike of Shanks to kind of bait fans in, even though it wasn't needed. But that's just my opinion. Especially now, considering we know that Shanks' father has yellow hair and not red hair. So he could have done that a different way, and it wouldn't have seen, in my opinion, as much negativity as it did. Because you just shoehorning that in, and it's way too late in the game. Not saying you couldn't have made it work, but you could have done it a different way, where people would have been more receptive to it. Now, what I find very interesting and honestly amusing about this situation, if we're talking about the Holy Land, Marijoa, being engulfed in flames, for whatever reason, I kind of feel like it has to have something to do with the revolutionaries, because unless it's like another Yonko attacking, who else could it be? We know that Lafitte was ironing on the revolutionaries, so we don't really know what's going on right now, but that's the other thing that stands out to me. However, what I find amusing is, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Shamrock go back because he was needed as backup, and aren't the rest of the Holy Knights there? So did the revolutionaries really infiltrate again and set the Holy Land on fire? Or are we looking at a situation here where the Holy Knights, along with their commander, Mr. St. Figurline Garling, who's supposed to be this all top 5, by the way, the person that substituted for Saturn, a member of the Gorosei. The Gorosei are there, by the way, attacked the Holy Land without any repercussions, or is there a war going on right now? Are we looking at a situation where a lot of people are going to be eating crow and are going to be made to look like fools because they doubted Dragon all this time, and off screen Dragon managed to find his way to Marijoa and burn the Holy Land, with the Holy Knights being there, with the Gorosei being there, with Emu being there, the Admirals being there? Is that what we're talking about here? Number one, I'm going to laugh my ass off, because I find that just as hilarious as Crossgill taking down the Seraphim Doflamingo, Crocodile, and Gecko Moria. That's hilarious to me. Meanwhile, you got Gunko, and I said this from the start of the year. My interest was at Gunko the moment that those two arrived. I said it then, and I'm going to continue to stand by that. I was more invested in Gunko than Shamrock anyway, so it didn't really change my opinion. This chapter just went above and beyond because we didn't expect now Gunko to have this much of a connection with Brook. Like I said earlier, I don't think it's as cut and dry as a lot of people think it is, only because of what we've seen previously when it comes to like fathers and daughters in One Piece. Like, case in point, even though it's non-canon, Uta is the adopted daughter of Shanks. If you want to go canon and most recent, it's going to be interesting to see if the anime actually include anything to this, but it's pretty much established, like, even though Kuma is the father figure of Barney, we kind of figured that we kind of find out that he's not biologically the father because of what we find out involving Ginny once she fled or once she left Marijoa. So that's the other thing too. So even if we're looking at Brook being the father of Gunko, that doesn't mean it's like biological. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. So it's possible, but with the whole influence of Emu, and that could very well be Emu in the taking over Gunko, we don't really know. It looks like that's the case, but even though it's kind of curious, the hair of Gunko grows out. Kind of went Super Saiyan 3 style, to be honest with you. But Gunko looking more menacing than ever before. There's a lot more questions now than answers. What if this is the case? If we are looking at the situation where Brook actually is the biological father of Gunko, Brook, you are the father. So all those years of Brook pulling Oda, having Brook pull these gags, and now it makes sense as to why he didn't do that with Gunko. Two other things as well, if you paid attention. So, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's thinking this right now. So, a couple of chapters ago, when we see Brook talking with the Straw Hats, they first meet Gunko. Brook is like, this person, oh, it couldn't be. And it kind of get brushed aside. We all thought it had something to do with it, the fact that she may have been a fan of Soul King. But this is the first time that Gunko mentioned Brook and found out his name was Brook in this chapter. The second thing that comes to mind now is a couple of chapters ago when Brook also was given the declaration by Gunko, hey, serve us and become a holy and play music for me or you'll die. And we saw Brook give that epic response. So, and after that, we saw Gunko kind of look, after attacking Brook, kind of like clutching her chest like she was in pain. I did point that out, but I thought it was for a different reason. Maybe she was in pain because she was a fan. We look at this now. You look at this now, it's a completely different perspective. So those are the two moments that stand out right now. So Oda is like cooking with this reveal. Like I said, it could very well be Emu taking over Gunko. That's what it looks like, but we'll have to wait and see. Because the first thing that comes to my mind is like, if that's not the case and Gunko has Emu's power, then that raises a whole lot of questions about Brook, doesn't it? And what does this mean for the Straw Hats going forward, even if that's not the case? And Brook finds out that Gunko is his daughter. Legitimately, what does that do now for Elbaf as a whole? Because Gunko is going to be public enemy number one. Or unless Gunko switches sides and finds a way to do something like... It's pretty much established she's the only one that can let the Straw Hats free, unless they deal with Gunko. And considering they're immortal and considering Gunko is in the form of Emu right now, I don't see that being the case at all. The only person that could stand up, and I feel like we're going to see him pretty soon, is Luffy. And it's pretty much looking like that's what's destined to happen, especially now. Now, that's destined to happen. Gunko against Luffy in Gear 5th. Whether or not that's Emu, I don't know. But that's definitely a possibility. Regardless, you can't deny Gunko looks menacing. And you can't deny now that Gunko has more impact in the story than Shamrock does. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes. I did not expect this reveal, but I guess it had to happen sooner or later considering we are in the final arc. But either way, I'm more invested in Gunko than ever before. And I was already invested to begin with. So let me know what you guys think down below. If you enjoyed this review, you guys know what to do. Hit that thumbs up. I appreciate that. That's going to do it for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more One Piece, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks, guys. Bye.